ആലയം കരുണാലയം നമാമി ഭഗവത്പാദം ശങ്കരം ലോകശങ്കരം ശങ്കരം ശങ്കരാചാര്യം കേശവം ബാതരായണം സൂത്രഭാഷ്യകൃതൗ വന്ദേ ഭഗവന്തൗ പുനഃ പുനഃ സദാശിവസമാരംഭാം ശങ്കരാചാര്യമധ്യമാം അസ്മദാചാര്യപര്യന്താം വന്ദേ ഗുരുപരമ്പരാം ഈശ്വരോ ഗുരുരാത്മേതി മൂർത്തിഭേദവിഭാഗിനേ വ്യോമവദ്വ്യാപ്തദേഹായ ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ ഉകാരോ അന്ധകാരോ വൈരുകാരസ്തന്നിവർത്തകഃ അന്ധകാരനിരോധിത്വാത് ഗുരുരിത്യഭിധീയതേ. ഓം സഹനാ ഭവതു സഹനൗ ഭുനക്തു സഹ വീര്യം കരവാവഹൈ തേജസ്വിനാവധീതമസ്തു മാ വിദ്വിഷാവഹൈ. ഓം ശാന്തി ശാന്തി ശാന്തി. ഓം ഭദ്രം കർണേഭിഃ ശൃണുയാമ ദേവാഃ ഭദ്രം പശ്യേമാക്ഷഭിർയജത്രാഃ സ്ഥിരൈരംഗൈഃ സുഷ്ഠുവാംസസ്തനൂഭിഃ വ്യശേമദേവഹിതം യദായുഃ. സ്വസ്തി ന ഇന്ദ്രോ വൃദ്ധശ്രവാഃ സ്വസ്തി നഃ പൂഷാ വിശ്വവേദാഃ സ്വസ്തി നസ്ഥാർക്ഷ്യോ അരിഷ്ടനേമിഃ സ്വസ്തി നോ ബൃഹസ്പതിർദധാതു. ഓം ശാന്തി ശാന്തി ശാന്തി. ഓം പ്രജ്ഞാനാം ശുപ്രധാനൈ സ്ഥിരചരനികരവ്യാപ്തിഭിർവ്യാപ്യ ലോകാൻ ഭുക്ത്വാ ഭോഗാൻ സ്ഥവിഷ്ഠാൻ പുനരഭിധിഷണോദ്ഭാസിതാൻ കാമജന്യാൻ പീത്വാ സർവാൻ വിശേഷാൻ സുപിതി മധുരഭുങ്മായയാ ഭോജയന്നഃ മായാസംഖ്യാസ്തുരീയം പരമമൃതമജം ബ്രഹ്മയത്തന്നതോസ്മി. യോ വിശ്വാത്മാ വിദിജ വിഷയാൻ പ്രാശ്യ ഭോഗാൻ സ്തവിഷ്ടാൻ പശ്ചാച്ചാന്യാൻ സുമിതി വിഭവാൻ ജ്യോതിഷാ സ്വേന സൂക്ഷ്മാൻ സർവാനേതാൻ പുനരഭിഷണൈ സ്വാത്മനി സ്ഥാപയിത്വാ ഹിത്വാ സർവാൻ വിശേഷാൻ വിഗത ഗുണഗണഃ പാത്വസൗ നസ്തുരീയഃ. So these two verses are invocation written by the commentator Adi Shankara. We already discussed the meaning of these two verses, very relevant, and the whole vision of the Upanishad is brought into these two verses. So those who didn't attend that classes of explanation of these verses, please go through YouTube, which we have uploaded these classes, and try to find out this explanation, the explanation of these two verses. And we have already gone through two verses of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad as a beginning for the few people. I will give a brief explanation of both. All the Upanishads have only one idea in all the verses. What is that idea? The identity with Brahman, Jiva, Ishvara, Ekatva, Jnana. The non-duality of the individual and the Ishvara. That knowledge is the central theme of all the Upanishads. Keep this idea in the mind, and go through all the verses. So I will read the first verse of this Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad, which we have already gone through. But for those who are attending first time and those who missed the class, for them. Om iti etataksharam idagam sarvam tasya uphavyakyanam bhutam bhavat bhavishyat iti sarvam omkaraha eva yaccha anyat trikalatītam tadapi omkaraha eva. Māṇḍūkya Upanishad is attributed to Māṇḍūka Rishi. Few commentators mention this. Maybe he will be the mantra drashta, the seer of these mantras. Whenever I say a Rishi's name for an Upanishad, it doesn't mean that that Upanishad was written by this Rishi. It's very popular idea that any book will have an author, invariably. Like that, Upanishad doesn't have any author. Upanishads are apaurusheyam. The technical word is apaurusheyam. Not being written by a human being, because any human being from the standpoint of creation is limited, will have limited ideas, will have limited knowledge, will have limited expressions, will have limited lifespan. So, any Upanishad, when we look into, it is from the immemorial past, it is existing. It is not a time-based book or a time-based idea. As long as the Srishti, the creation exists, we will study Upanishad. When the creation is not there or we are not there, Upanishads exist. There will be no teaching or studying of Upanishad by any living being. That's all. It exists. So it is Nityam. It is Apaurushayam. There is no author for any of the Upanishad. Let it. Now, we are looking to the one of the 10 Upanishads, those Upanishads which got commentary by Adi Shankar. And Māṇḍūkya Upanishad is based upon the explanation of Om, Omkara. We know this syllable or word, Om, because any mantra, any spiritual activity, any spiritual prayer, any spiritual meditation will start by uttering the word Om. And Māṇḍūkya Upanishad is talking about the explanation of Om. So, the first verse I already explained. Om iti etadaksharam idagum sarvam. Everything what we see here, everything which we don't see in this world or which we will not identify while living, everything is nothing but Om. It's a designation for the entity which is eternal, a name. Abhidhan. Om is a name for the eternal entity which being manifested in the form of universe. So when we connect that sentence with this sentence, everything will fall under place. Like Om iti etadaksharam idagum sarvam. Everything is indeed Om here. When the eternal entity is superimposed by the names and forms of this world, and that entity is behind all these names and forms, that entity have a name called Om, so that we can say, whatever I see, whatever I don't see, everything is nothing but Om. Tasya upavyakhyanam. Upavyakhyan, a clean-cut explanation, a brilliant explanation without any doubts and errors. Bhūtam, Bhavat, Bhavishyat, Idi, Sarvam, Omkaraha, Eva. An explanation is begun, and whatever gone beyond is Omkaraha only. Whatever right now existing in the present tense, in the present condition, that is also Omkaraha. Bhavishyat, what is going to come in future? There may be some aliens, there may be some new beings, there may be some new experiences in my life. Everything is nothing but Omkara. Yacha anya trikala atitam. And whatever exists apart from the creation, trikala aditam, beyond the past, present, and future. Something which exists beyond these three states, these three times. That is also Omkaraha eva. Tadabi Omkaraha. Remember, I have given an explanation based on the Adi Shankara's commentary of this verse in the before two classes. Please look into that. What is Abhidhanam? What is Abhidheyam? Why the Upanishad mentions the name Omkara instead of mentioning the entity? All these reasons I have already explained according to the Shankara's comment. Then the Upanishad says the entity. The first verse mentions the name of the entity. It is everything, whatever we see, whatever we experience, what is going to come, everything is this Omkara. Now, the same entity is being mentioned in the second verse. Sarvam hi etat Brahma, ayam atma Brahma, soyam atma chatushpat. Sarvam hi etat Brahma. The eternal entity which has a designation Om, that entity is Brahma. The word Brahma comes from the root, Sanskrit root, Brihi, Vruddhau, in the sense of expansion, in the sense of biggest, in the sense of everything. Brih, something which is the top, the highest, the biggest, like that. Sarvam hi etat Brahma. The etat, that word, this. When we use the word this, something which is available right in front of me is called this. Sarvam. Whatever I see in front of me, everything is. Whatever I don't see also, that will be also Brahman. Sarvam hi etat Brahman. When I say this proverb, this, it means that the individual being which is near to me, who is residing inside the body, that Brahman is indeed everything what I see in this universe. And one of the famous Mahavakyam, supreme sentences of Upanishad, that sentences which have the capacity to reveal the secret of an individual. Those sentences which have the capacity to connect with the world and the individual. Those sentences which will reveal the non-duality of the individual and the Ishvara is called Mahavakyam. In Upanishads, there are Mahavakyams which reveals the non-duality of the individual and the all-pervading Lord. So, Sarvam hi etat Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma. This is the Mahavakya of Atharva. This Upanishad is Atharva Vedam from Atharva Vediya Upanishad. From the Atharva Vedam, there are 4 Vedas, which I don't want to mention you. You already know that. Among them, Atharva Vedam, that in that Atharva Vedam, this Upanishad is there. And this Upanishad, there is a name called Talavakara Brahman. Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad belongs to Atharva Vedam, and in the Atharva Veda, it exists in a Talavakara Brahmana section. Let it be there. There are sections and which has names. So, this Mahavakyam, Ayam Atma Brahma, this individual being is Brahman. Brahman is the biggest entity in the world, in the universe, and that biggest entity is sustaining the entire creation. And also, whatever I cannot think with my human brain, there are some other things. Everything is being supported by this biggest entity called Brahman, and that Brahman is me. I am Atma. This individual living being is Brahman, Mahavan. And Soyam Atma Chatushpa. This Atma, this individual being who is residing inside the body has four states, Chatushpa, four quarters, like in a currency, we can make into four quarters. When we divide 100 into 4, 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25. These are the four quarters. Like these, this individual living being has four quarters. Why this is mentioned here? Why these four quarters are mentioned here? For what purpose? Four quarters are mentioned here for a journey from the known to the unknown. What is known to me? It is not going to my goal or purushartha. But it can have a purpose. It will help me to reach the goal. So, from the known to the unknown, a prakriya is being introduced by analyzing the three states of a human being, which is personal, which is universal for every living being. These four quarters are going to be our steps towards the goal. What are the four states which is going to be introduced by the Upanishad? We have three states already we know. Waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. In the waking state, whatever we do, it's something we can collect information, we can study, we can enjoy. We meet different people in this world. We eat different ice creams in this world. We see different places in this world. All these are experienced in the waking state. The point is, it's not the human goal. Even though a lot of experiences are given in the waking state, it's not the human goal. You can meet different people. You can eat different foods. You can visit different countries. You can experience different cultures. You can experience what is astronomy says. But that's not the human goal. This is the fact to be understood. And the Upanishad also want to say you that by analyzing these three states, it will make you to reach the real goal. But here it is mentioned the four quarters. But we have only three states and three quarters. Which is the fourth quarter or which is the fourth state? The fourth quarter is not a state which comes and goes. When I say it's not a state, means something which comes and goes. The fourth quarter is not at all a quarter. The fourth state is mentioned Upacharikam. Upachar. What is meant by Upachar? Formal way. When we count the waking state, when we count the deep dream state, when we count the deep sleep state, and also in the formal way, the goal is also included as the fourth quarter. That's it's not the state of a human being. It's the intrinsic nature of a human being. It's not the quarter, it's the base of all these three states. But for the sake of understanding, for the sake of studies, for the sake of the simple way of entering into the reality, it is also included as the fourth state, even though it is not a state which comes and goes. It's the intrinsic nature, it's the base, it's the locus of all three states. That is why it's called Turiyam. The word Turiyam comes from Chaturam, Turam, fourth, then Turiyam. In and through, it is there in all these states. There is no absence of this intrinsic nature in these three states, because it is eternal, because it is the base of all these three states of experiences. It will be there like a cinema screen, continues permanently, witnessing all the changes occurring in a movie without unchanging its nature. A movie screen will not change when a train runs. A movie screen will not change when the horses are running inside the movie. The movie scene, the movie screen is stable, and which is the locus of all the incidents which we witness inside the movie. Thus, this locus is being mentioned as the fourth quarter, which will be our goal. So, from the known to the unknown, so that it will be very easy. Padyate anena iti padam, through which I go step by step, a means. These three states will become the means for the understanding of the goal by analyzing by the Upanishad and the commented. Padaniyam padam. The goal should be accomplished. That goal which should be accomplished by a person, so that padaniyam, to be sought after, is called padam. The quarter is equal to padam. A place to be sought after, a means which will help to see the reality, or which will help to see the fact, or to reach the goal. So, patyate anena iti padam, through which I go step by step to the goal, that is also called the quarter. Padaniyam padam, a quarter which remains as a goal to be accomplished, through the means of these three states. So the quarter will also represent the means and the goal. This is the meaning, significance of the second verse. More explanation is there, which we have already gone through. Please go through those explanations, which will be helpful to go through the next verses of the Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. Now we will go to the third verse of the Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. Shankara, the commentator, connect this verse in his commentary like this: Katham Chatushpatvam iti aha. How these four quarters is being introduced. Now I will read the verse. Jagarita sthanaha bahishpratnyaha saptankaha ekona vimshati mukaha stulabuk vaishvanaraha pratamah pataha. Again I will read. Jagarita sthanaha bahishpratnyaha saptankaha ekona vimshati mukaha stulabuk vaishvanaraha pratamah pataha. One by one, word by word. First we will see. Prathama pataha, the first quarter, the first path is named Vaishvanaraha. The name is called Vaishvanara. The word Vaishvanara have different explanation. One who resides in the Vishwam is called Vaishvanaraha. Vishwam means the Jagat, the universe. Vividam Bhadi is also Vaishvanara. One who became different things, different names and forms is also called Vaishvanara. These two explanations are sufficient to go to the more meaning of this Upanishad. So keep in this mind. One who became this entire universe, Vaishvanara. One who became the names and forms in this universe is also called Vaishvanara. The first quarter has a person called Vaishvanaraha. And what is that first quarter or first state? Jagarita sthanaha. Jagaritam. Waking state. Jagarita sthanam means waking state, whose ownership belongs to waking state, whose sphere is the waking state. When a person who is a husband of a woman and he is conducting a household life, but he is working as a lawyer in the court. When he go to the court, this is his working place. He became the lawyer. Everybody call him lawyer. Nobody call him husband. Nobody call him father. Nobody call him any other name. Because he has a uniform, because he has a purpose, because his activities are in a place. Considering all these factors, people will call him lawyer or advocate, whatever. The same idea should be brought into this verse. Jagarita sthanaha Vaishvanara. A person who appears in the waking state, whose sphere is in the waking state. The very entity who is eternal, all-pervasive, the very entity who will never come to a birth and death, but when it appears in a human being's body, and when it enjoys with the senses and organs, then this entity will be called as Vaishvanara. An entity which appears inside the human body and go through the experiences with the help of organs and senses. So, Jagarita Sthanaha, Vaishvanaraha, the first quarter, Bahishprajnaha. What is called Bahishprajnaha? Whose conscious is towards the external objects, who is connected with the external object, who identify himself or herself with the external objects. Bahishprajnaha. Prajna means conscious. But here we should connect that prajna means one person who connect with him with the external objects in the waking state. Saptangaha. He has 7 limbs. Angam means limbs. Sapta Angaha. That I am going to explain. Sapta Anga. 7 limbs. A person who has 7 limbs. We have another Upanishad, that Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad, talks about these 7 limbs. What are the 7 limbs? I will read the Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad verse, which was quoted by the commentator in his commentary. Tasya va etasya atmanaha Vaishvanarasya murdva eva suteja chaturvimsha chakshuhu vishwarupaha pranaha pratak Vartman Atma Sandehaha Bahulaha Vastihi Eva Reihi Prathivya Eva Padau. This is the verse from the another Upanishad, from another Upanishad. We are studying an Upanishad to justify this Upanishad. We have to go to the another Upanishad. When the Upanishad says a word, it is Vishvato Mukam. What is Vishvato Mukam? What has been told in another Upanishad, there will be no contradiction in this Upanishad for them. Everything will be in tune. So, Vishvato Mukam. Everything will be in harmony. Whatever written in this Upanishad, whatever written in another Upanishad, everything will fall under place. So, Sapta Angaha. What are the Sapta Angaha? The face, Duloka, the effulgent world. It can be the heaven or some other worlds which we don't know. Sapta Angaha. I will read one by one. First I will read, then I will give you the meaning which we can try to understand. These are the 7 limbs of this Vishwatma. What are the 7 limbs? First is Dulokam. Dulokam means effulgence world. And Pranaha, the second, which is mentioned in the Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. This is not the explanation of commentator. Commentator just quoted the verse of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. And sun will be the eyes. And the Vasti. Vasti means the stomach and the external part. That will be Akasha, the space which is available for us is the Akash. And the food and the wealth, or the food and the water, will be the 5th limb. And the earth will be the 7th limb. And the middle portion will be water. Now I will list the 7 limbs. The first will be Viloka, which is the heaven and the external world. Remember that this body or this Vaishvanara have 7 limbs. I am talking about the entity which is residing inside this body have 7 limbs. For what purpose I should know the 7 limbs? I already mentioned you. Through the known, we should enter into the unknown. For the sake of entering to the unknown, first we will know who am I? Who is this individual who has 7 limbs in the waking state? First is Dulokam. What is Dulokam? His face is, or his head is Dulok. 1. The sun will become his eyes. 2. The vital air will become his pranan, the inhaling and exhaling and making all the organs active. 3. The Akasha will become the Vakshasthalam. Vakshasthalam means the chest portion. Vakshas. 5. Annam and wealth. The food and the prosperities which we can see in this world are the lower portion of this individual. From the chest, this stomach will be the lower portion. And after that, jalam, water, will be from the lower portion to the legs, up to the legs. Jalam, water. And Prithvi, the earth will become the feet of this individual living being. Seems to be very odd. Seems to be a bit confusing. And Shankara makes this question as an opponent's question. Why he makes, how he makes, I will make you. Why in the explanation of an individual living being, the 7 limbs of the external things which are gross and bigger than the individual being is been mentioned. There is a confusion now between us. We started as waking state and the entity who is appearing the waking state. And when we explain the limbs of the Vaishvanaraha, the limbs are entirely different as we expected. The limbs are something connected to the universal totality. When we count the universal as a living being, suppose, then this universe have a face or a head, which is the heaven and the external world, the world worlds which are shining. Surgadi loka, hatyu loka. So this limited individual being who is residing in the body has head as heaven. The individual living being's head is heaven. So there is a confusion right now. While getting explained of waking state and the entity of waking state, we just jumped into the other things as its limbs. So Shankara clears this doubt in his commentary, which we'll see after the word by word meaning. Now, 7 limbs I already mentioned, which is based upon the Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad, 5th chapter, 18th verse, 2nd line. 7 limbs. And Ekona, in the 17 faces are there. Take in a formal way. The senses and the organs are counted as here 17 faces. 5 sense organs. 5 organs of action. 5 pranas. 4 mano, buddhi, ahankaram, chittam. I mentioned you right now in Sanskrit. Now I will give you in English. 5 senses of knowledge. Jnanendriyani. What is that? Jnanendriyam senses of listening, senses of sight, senses of smell, senses of speech and taste, senses of touching. These are all the five jnanendriyas. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandhani, Yena, Indriyena, Jnadum Shakyam. Five Indriyas, five senses. These five senses are jnanendriya. Without this, we cannot interact the world in a special way. You can interact, but with the help of somebody. Suppose we are blind. We pray for the old blind people in the world when I say this example. A person who is blind, to interact with the world, we need a support. Somebody should hold the hand. Somebody should keep the food from where the food is there. From there, we have to bring that food. Totally depending on somebody only, we can deal with the world. It's not very easy when these five senses are missing. Five sense organs of knowledge. Five senses of actions. Vak, Pani, Padam, Upastham, Apayu. Vak, words. The tongue will come into senses of knowledge and the senses of action. There it will become it will take the role of getting taste. Here it will take the role of speech. That's all. So walk, one who do the action of speech. Vagindriyam. Hastendriyam. Pani. With the hands only we can take, we can eat, we can everything. Padam. Legs, which will help for walking. Upastham apayuhu. Those organs which will help to put out all the waste from the body, and also which will help to create the next generation. Upastham and apayu. Without them, a human being cannot survive. This is how the adjustment of the body is created. They are the senses of action, the senses of knowledge. 5 plus 5, 10. 5 types of actions are going on in our body by the vital force which enter inside our nose. Once the air enters inside the nose, it will work in 5 different manners. According to that, they have different names. Prana, Vyana, Utana, Apana, Samana. Pranopana, Vyana, Utana, Samana. Prana goes everywhere inside them, through the nose. Vyana, help the blood to go circulating in the body. Vyapanashi. Udana, Urdhvagamana, help to sniff to put something from the mouth outside. There is a need, we need a force of the air. Prana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. Samikaranam, digestion. And the last one, who will work towards downwards. Apanan. So, 5 organs of actions, 5 types of vital force. Prana, Pancha Prana. And Manas, mind. Intellect, Buddhi. Ahankaram, the I consciousness, identifying the body, ego. Memory, Chittam, 4. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4, 19. These are the phases of Vaishvanaraha. These explanations are to be understood. That's all. No need to keep inside the mind as a by heart and everything. To enter into the all-pervading entity, we need to be understood who is in the waking state, Vaishvanara. Saptankaha, who has having 7 limbs, Ekona Vimshati Mukaha, who has 19 faces, Stula Book, who enjoy the external objects, Sthulam, gross objects, who will enjoy all the gross objects. Of course, in the waking state, we will deal with the empirical things, who will enjoy all the external things. Now, we are clear with the word by word meaning. Who is Vaishvara? Vaishvara is the same entity who is the locus of all these 3 states. But when it appears in the waking state inside a human, in a body, in an individual, he gets the name Vaishvanaraha. And the explanation of the limbs of Vaishvanaraha is little exaggerated because the limbs are very much impossible when we connect the limbs towards the heaven, etc., the Dulokam, the prana, and the Vaishvanara, not Vaishvanara, the fire, Avahaniya. All these things are little bit exaggerated. That means here a question is arised by the Adi Shankara in his commentary. What is the question? The waking state entity is the topic under discussion, which is the innermost self, which is the Atma. The subject matter, the discussion of this entity, which is introduced in our Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad, is Pratyekatma, the individual living being. But here, the limbs are like Dulokadi. Why the limbs are explained as something away from the individual being? Why should this type of explanation for this individual being? So Shankara says that this explanation of these limbs for the individual living being to make understand the seeker, the different who is the totality of gross objects in the universe. Again, I will repeat. This explanation of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad as that individual being have 7 limbs which are the effulgent world, etc., etc., are given to get an idea for the seeker that this individual being is non-different from the being who is the totality of the gross objects of universe, which we will be calling them in the name of Virat. Virat Purushaha. Virat means the entity who is the total gross object. Where these total gross objects are being situated or in which entity. Both are same, non-different. In order to connect with this only, that non-difference between the individual Virat, individual Vaishvanaraha and Virat Purusha. Remember that Virat is a technical name for the entity who is equal to the totality of the gross universe. So, the cosmic entity in simple way, the individual entity. When you compare the pot with the pot world, we make understand the pot. The clay which appears in your body is the same in the pot world. When we compare the individual with the pot world, that is Virat, and this pot is Vaishvanaraha. For the sake of understanding the non-duality, the non-different between the Virat and the Vaishvanaraha, this comparison, this imaginary representation of these 7 limbs are given. There is no mistake for that. After all the Upanishads are talking about this idea only, that this individual is the essence of all the names and forms of the universe. Shankara, in his commentary, he quotes a few verses to justify this idea. The idea is important. What is the idea? Why? First of all, we will see the question once again in the Bhashyam. In the place of the explanation of Vaishvanaraha, who is the entity of the waking state, why the limbs from the totality of the universe are brought into. The limbs are extraordinary when we compare to the limbs of the individual living being. How can it be possible? Why this type of explanation is brought into? This is the question Shankara has given in his commentary, which is a question of a seeker who studied Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. And Shankara gives the answer. What is the answer? The reality of the individual being, the Pratyak Atman, is non-different from the totality of the gross universe, which is called Virat. Virat Vaishvanarayoho Ekatvam Pratipadyate. The oneness, the unity, they are one. In order to show that the limbs of the Virat Purusha, the limbs of the totality of the gross universe, is being quoted for the Vaishvanara. This is the idea. And this is not a simple idea. This is the fact. This is the truth. This is the reality. And each and every Upanishad says this idea in different ways. And Shankara quotes one example from Īśāvāsya Upanishad. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha tatraka mohaka shokaha ekatvam anupashyataha. This is a verse before the quoting verse. Connected with that, yastu sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha. The idea is this. Īśāvāsya mantra, 6th mantra. Īśāvāsya Upanishad, 6th. One who sees everything in him and one who sees him in all other things, for him, where is the worries? Where is the insecurity? Where is the delusion? That clear vision is brought into by seeing everything in him and in all the things he sees himself. Ananyatvam vibhati. I am non-separate from the universe. In simple manner, I am non-separate from the dog. I am non-separate from this bird. I am non-separate from this slave who is working under me, a servant. I am non-separate from the stars. Everything is nothing but me from the standpoint of reality. For that only, this idea is quoted in Īśāvāsya Upanishad. And I will read these sentences. How Shankara answered this explanation. Sarvasya prapanchasya sadidevika chatushpatvasya vivakshitatvat. The whole universe having the 4 quarters, like the 4 quarters appearing to an individual living being, they are non-separate from the standpoint of reality. And all the Upanishads are echoing the same idea. After all, what is that idea? Like this in the Īśāvāsya Upanishad, yastu sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha. Everything is nothing but one entity, even though they are appearing in different bodies. We experience my sister is different from me, my wife is different from me, stars are different from me, from the standpoint of creation. But one who resides in each and every body is one. Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetresu bharata. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, in each and everything, myself, the one entity resides in everything. That is been told here. So, if this idea is not being quoted here, we will get connected with some other theories and philosophies like Sankhya. They have, the other philosophies in the world have this idea that every individual is different from one to one. We are different entities, we are different individuals. In order to eliminate that idea, here Shankara brings this explanation that the Vaishvanaraha who is appearing in the waking state is non-different from the Virat Purusha who is the totality of the gross universe. So that the entity is non-different, one and the same in the world and in the individual body. We will stop right now here. Few explanation is also there according to the commentary of Adi Shankara, which we will be discussing in the next class. First of all, whatever I have explained, please go through the class once more in the YouTube so that it will be easy to go for the next session. That's why I stop right now. I want to explain a little bit more. If not, if I explain everything all together, it will be a confusion. Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayandam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobrahmanibhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshadu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Choparahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschat Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamatav Purnamitam Purnat Purnamutachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om